Hello, everybody. It's Servet Hassan. It's Sunday night, and this is Intuitive Inc. Thank you for joining me. And also I want to thank all the people out there that are giving me huge support and emailing me and telling me to please continue. And the guests have been great. And I love it. Thank you for doing that. I just wanted to say that. Today we have Brandy Williams on the show. She was going to be on the show in September, but she had a damn good excuse for not. She had a family emergency, and as any good family person, she went to the rescue. And I had a feeling, because I start to worry when people don't call in when they're supposed to, and I just had this little nagging feeling that something wasn't right. I also had the feeling, though, that it was going to be okay. But anyway, we straightened that all out, and here she is today. Brandy Williams is a ceremonial magician. And she's not joking. And she's been practicing and teaching magic for more than 25 years. I think more like probably 30. She founded the Seattle Pagan Scholars and serves as its director, and she's also the president of Covenant of the Goddess and maintains involvement with an Ordo Templi Orientis. Did I say that right, Brandy?
You did, although I'm not the current president of Covenant of the Goddess. I'm a past president. Okay. I'd have to look up who the current one is, but it's a past office.
Okay, well, you did it. So there you go. And you're also the author of Practical Magic for Beginners and The Woman Magician. And you are here today to discuss your new book, For the Love of the Gods. And I sent out a newsletter, and I also posted it on Facebook and Instagram, Twitter, all the things you're supposed to do. I have to tell you, so many people commented on the cover of this book. It's beautiful.
I am in love with the cover. Isn't it just lovely?
Yeah.
The only thing that would make it better is if she was a woman of color. So we're working on trying to get more women of color in the imagery of our tradition. But I just love the image of the woman reading and being an intellectual. I'm in love with that cover. So it's Elysia Gallo. Thank you, Elysia.
Right. Yeah. Oh, okay. Because it is beautiful. So that's where it came from?
Well, Elysia was my editor at Llewellyn and approved the cover. This is Edward Pointer's image. It's called Reading.
Oh, God, it's lovely. And she looks so Greek or Roman, or just from that whole era of the philosophers, too, you know? Mm-hmm. Anyway, I wanted to tell you that because so many people comment. Usually I put a photo of the author in the newsletter. And this time I didn't because I was just so taken. So I'm sorry they didn't get to see your beautiful face. But they can if they buy the book, right?
And you're very kind. And I it's sort of how I imagine myself to be. So it's my perfect self, right? My physical self doesn't resemble that so much, but that's my inner self.
Well, it's beautiful. Okay, so let's start talking here because we've got a lot to talk about, and an hour goes pretty fast. And we will open the lines if anybody wants to talk to Brandy. You can call in the second half of the show. I'll give you the number at that time. But she's certainly well-versed, and you don't have to limit it to just For the Love of the Gods. You can ask questions because she did write the Practical Magic for Beginners and The Woman Magician. So any of those topics that she can answer for you, boy, go for it. I would. Anyway, so tell us how did this happen? How did you suddenly one day become a ceremonial magician?
Oh, well, I'm a witch as well as a ceremonial magician. And when I was very, very young, I met one of my current life partners, and he was a ceremonial magician. So we traded. I taught him witchcraft, and he taught me ceremonial magic. And I realized that they're very similar tradition. Witchcraft and ceremonial magic come from a common base. So it was very easy to combine these practices. So that's kind of how I got into it. I've just always been interested in esotericism from a very from my point of view now, from a young age, from 12 or so.
Well, I have to ask you because you brought it up. What is the difference then between a witch and a ceremonial magician? Obviously, there's a difference because you taught him, he taught you. right?
Yes. Witchcraft definitely shares ritual structures, but it also has an element of European folk magic, folk religion. So it's much more about the worship of the goddess and connecting with the seasons. There's a whole thread in that tradition that differentiates it from ceremonial magic. But all of our rituals rest on this common sort of Greek Mediterranean magical tradition in what we call in the West. So in practice, as a witch, my coven gets together. We'll do this. We're coming up on Halloween now, so we'll cast a circle and we'll invoke the people of our coven who are no longer on the physical plane, and we'll do shape-shifting and turn into animals, and then we'll go out and have some cider and enjoy ourselves. And as a ceremonial magician, I would go into the temple and invoke the archangels and do work that would be more of a personal spiritual nature. That's one way to put the difference.
Okay, so are you going to do both on Halloween?
Well, I do actually. So we, as a coven, we meet for the 8 Sabbats. As a theurgist, I'm working my way through a set of personal devotionals to the Olympic deities, to the dodecatheon. So I kind of do those on different days. So they're not so much tied to the seasonal celebration, which is kind of one of the differences.
Right. Okay. Well, you brought up Theurgy, so we're going to, because the name of the book is For the Love of the Gods, published by Llewellyn worldwide, but the subtitle is The History and Modern Practice of Theurgy, Our Pagan Inheritance. So a lot of people don't even know what Theurgy is. So can you kind of explain it in a nutshell?
Sure. The literal translation of the word theurgy, it's a Greek word, and it means God work. And the work of theurgy is the work that we do to bring ourselves into the world of the gods, to understand the gods, and also the work that we do to bring the gods into our lives. And there are very specific rituals to enact that, to bring us to the gods. But again, this is a Mediterranean tradition, and it works well. It works well with different kinds of deities, but in particular with the Greek deities. They kind of use the Greek deities as their touchstone, really.
Right. Well, and it gets into a lot of philosophy as well, right?
Yes, the theurgy was practiced by the Platonic philosophers. Sometimes we call the later ones Neoplatonists, but they thought of themselves as Platonists. So they would think about what life is, what the gods are, how the universe works, how we relate to that. And then, so that's kind of the theory, the philosophy, and the practice is then how do you go and connect to those cosmic forces, and how do you improve yourself? So it's very much about the soul perfecting itself through understanding the gods and working with the gods. And the philosophical texts tell you how to do it, how to think about it. The ritual texts then tell you what to do in your temple.
Right. Well, there's a paragraph that I love. It's short. I'm going to read it because it's a paragraph from the introduction, and it kind of said it all to me. So I just want to read it really quickly. The great teacher Plato said the true goal of a life is to become good, to center our lives not on material gain, but on spiritual understanding. As our love for the gods draws us, we seek to become like the gods ourselves, suffused with their light, dwelling within the happy presence of the divine. And that really summed it up for me. I thought, oh, okay, now I'm gonna read the rest. I did, actually. So.
Oh, great. Wonderful. And isn't that a lovely thing to hear right at this moment when we've kind of, our civil discourse has so much incivility in it. It's lovely to kind of recenter ourselves on what is truly important. I'm hearing that from a lot of people, actually, that we're thinking, what is truly important in our lives? What is it I'm supposed to be doing? And theurgy is one of the responses to that question, or that is not a response, but a way to get at that response.
Right. Well, that's one of the reasons I read that, because it is true right now that people need to be reminded of that, because there's so much anger, especially here in America right now. I think there's just a lot of anger and a lot of we're missing some of us are missing the point, of what is really important. And what really is important is that to be good, and we become good, I think, through a spiritual practice of some kind. And I really have such an open mind to any and all religions and practices and human potential movements. I will never close my mind to any of them, because if it's working for even just one person, then they have something to say and it might work for somebody else, Yeah.
I'm totally with you. And what I find when I do interfaith work is that if we talk to each other as people of faith, that we have a lot more in common with each other than people who don't have some way of understanding how they are in the world. So I think there's really a lot of common ground if we talk to each other as people. And I'm really hoping that we can continue to do that. We can model that for the world.
Right. I believe really with all my heart, and I it's part of my teaching, is that most all of the practices are all saying the same thing. They're all trying to teach us to love ourselves and to be good and to feel good about ourselves, and that comes about in many different ways. But there's an underlying message to all of these practices, like you said. And if we talk to each other, we'd find out that we're all pretty much on the same page. It's just a different book,
It's a very nice way to put it. It's very well put.
Well, I'm open to that. So now, how did you discover Theurgy?
Well, it was maybe 20 years ago. I as a pagan, I did a lot of research. I spent a lot of time in the university library. I'm a geek. I'm a history geek. So that was where I found the details of my practice, and I encountered a text called the Greek Magical Papyri in translation, which was a collection of spells. They were called spells that were 2,000 years old. They were written in Greek and in the Egyptian, the Demotic text. And I looked at these spells, these rituals, and I realized that I understood them. I understood how they worked, and I understood how to do them. And I said, well, that's interesting, because I was taught as a pagan that Christian religion had destroyed paganism, that it was no longer extant. And yet here I am looking at a text that I can read. Why is that? And so it became very interesting to me to track that down. And I discovered that the text could be described as survivals of theurgic ritual, and I traced how they came down to us, what the transmission was, and that got me interested in the theory, the Platonic philosophy that explained how the rituals worked. But it helped me to connect to my past, and this is something that was very important to me as I wrote the book, that I wanted to make that connection for other people as well. We do have a history, we do have a tradition. It is extant. You can learn it from people who learned it from people, and you can learn it from books. So it was like 20 years ago, and in the library.
And there you go. You were off and running, right?
Yep.
I don't even think, I think it's like it's inbred in us or something. I think there's a little something inside of us that just gets sparked by something like that. And that's our true purpose, I think.
I think so, and I always felt that when I picked up that text in particular, it really felt like this was the thing that I was supposed to be doing. This was what I should be researching, and so I immediately began to work with the texts and relate them to my existing practice, and eventually I started talking to people about it and then writing about it.
Right, and what I like about the book, because I will continue to learn as much as I can till the day I die. So I got into this a little bit just to study it. Is I liked that you made it practical for people. There's a practical application to it,
Yeah, so it's not just about the philosophy itself, because it's a scary term, philosophy. We've been taught kind of to shy away from it because it's about people talking about ethics or about how many angels dance on the head of a pin, things that we don't really relate to our lives. But the philosophy that we're talking about, that Platonic philosophers laid down, was really about how to go about our spiritual lives, how to go about our religious lives, and it definitely grounds in ritual. And so it's really lovely to hear you say that. And it's not the thing that usually people say. Usually people say, oh, thank God, you didn't make me read the history. You told stories instead. So people really like the fact that I told stories about the philosophers.
Right. Well, tell the listeners out there about some of the philosophers. I mean, were there women philosophers?
There were. It's really interesting because in the West, in European culture, women kind of dropped out of a particular kind of philosophy, the philosophy that kind of came down from Aristotle. And you'll find, if you pick up an introduction to philosophy book, you will find no women in it, almost always.
Right.
But women were very much a part of the Platonic philosophical tradition. So you find that Plato's mother was a philosopher, and you find that women are important in the transmission of Platonic philosophy. If you take them out, you don't have a transmission. So they're very much part. And something I love about Platonic philosophy is that it includes everyone. It includes people of color. It includes disabled people. It includes anyone who can think can do Platonic philosophy. And in fact, it's also important for us to know that we owe a lot to Egypt, to Kemet, and to India. Our tradition really comes from these streams of the Egyptian philosophy and Indian philosophy and Greek philosophy. The Greeks got the credit, but really they were resting on the shoulders of cultural giants. And I think it's a really important thing for us to know at this time as well.
Right. Why?
That's awesome. I didn't have time to take my sip of water.
I know you've got a good reason, and I want you to tell people because I know it's a good message.
It is. We've really kind of written out people of color from the tradition, and I think that that's kind of a form of colonialization. It's a form of really taking something and not giving credit, and it's just really not it's not fair. So I think it's very important to point to it. The ancients said, we learned from Egypt. We learned what we got from Egypt. And then in the last 100, 200 years, European philosophers said, no, they were not, they didn't, they were just imagining that. And they kind of built the Greeks up as the originators of these philosophies. And now academics again are coming back to saying, we really should take them at their word. We can see how it is that this tradition directly connects up to predecessor ideas in the Kemetic temples and in India. So we need to give that credit. And that connects us as people too. So people of color and people, European people of European heritage and people who are practicing Hindu traditions all have a vocabulary to talk to each other and are all included in this tradition. You can be a theurgist of any color, any ethnic heritage, any gender. It's welcoming to everyone.
No, right. I agree. I totally agree with that. Well, I was born in Pakistan, so I totally, and I grew up in London and Montreal, so I'm a British citizen, a Canadian citizen, and an American citizen as well. But I come from parents who both were born in India because there was no Pakistan when they were born. There was only a Pakistan when I was born. They lived through that separation. But, there's a lot of tradition, and it just gets passed down from woman to woman to woman over time. That's
really
there, because I remember someone saying to me one day, they said, she wanted to get pregnant. She was really having a hard time getting pregnant. And I said, sleep with a freshwater pearl under your pillow. And she goes, does that work? And I said, it has for everyone I've told them to do that. And sure enough, 6 months later, she was pregnant. And she said, well, how the hell do you know that? And I said, I don't know. I think my mother told me that once somewhere along the way, So these traditions that just get passed down along with just ways of being, it's because theurgy to me is a lifestyle, correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and that Pythagoras visited India, and when he returned, you can see the idea of reincarnation enter into Greek thought. Before that, the idea of what happened after the soul died was that it went to the underworld, to this realm of the shades. And then once Pythagoras brought this idea back, suddenly you get Plato talking about how the soul reincarnates, right? So there's such a total connection, and also with the temples too. The temple rituals in Egypt were about bringing a deity into the body of a statue. And that happens in India today. That is an extant ritual tradition where people go to temples and the deities have been invited to live in those statues. So really, you can see that that entire realm, that entire part of the world is connected up. All these ideas connect up.
Right. Well, I totally agree. I mean, people are getting their ideas from somewhere. They came from, I think, even Emerson had some Eastern, influence to his work. And they've determined that. I mean, I don't think he's ever said it, but it was determined. So yes, you're right. I think that's really important to know. I do. I think it's really important to know. Okay, so now let's talk about actually what is Neoplatism just a philosophy, or is it more than that?
Well, you can certainly do it as just a philosophy, and we have done that in the West for many, many hundreds of years, and even today there are academics who study the philosophy as a philosophy. I think that you need to understand, though, the religious underpinning of Platonism to really get the full benefit of it, to really understand the context. The Platonic philosophers were responding to the change in the world. The Neoplatonic philosophers were responding to the change in the world in the development of Christian religion, and they were very much about preserving traditional knowledge, the knowledge of how to approach the gods and talk to the gods. So built into Platonic philosophy is this understanding of how the gods work. And and something that you see as you study the lives of the philosophers is that whenever a new person picks up the books and begins to study the philosophy, you find a convert to paganism, and paganism starts to flow around that. So it's very much a ritual tradition. It's a philosophical tradition that roots in the religious tradition of the Mediterranean world.
Wow, you're right. So now if you were talking to a novice and they had just picked up this book, how would you tell them to go about practicing theurgy now?
So the ritual practices kind of come in a hierarchy. You start with simple ones first, and then you can move forward into the more complex ones. And the simplest ones are based in Hellenic religion. It's called Hellenismos, and there are lots of people who practice it today. You can connect up with other people who are picking up the love of the gods, and all of them is a set, or one person, one god in particular. So it's the very first thing is devotional. Look at the deities. You can start with the Olympic deities, the 12 Olympic deities. Take a look at them and see if one of them calls to you, and then get a statue, make an altar, begin to burn incense to the deity, and open up a dialogue. And there's a wonderful set of poems called the Orphic hymns. The Orphic hymns have are hymns to each of the deities, and quite a few of them, and some specific ones. So you can start your practice by just saying the Orphic hymn to the statue. And then that begins to make that connection between you and the deity. That's what I'm doing right now, and doing the full set. All my life I've been attracted to the gods and not as attracted to attracted to the goddesses and not as attracted to most of the gods. So I made myself do them all, right, and understand each individual deity and understand how they work. So you could do that as well, but pick one and start there. That's probably the best way to get started.
Right. Okay. So you're doing this alone too, right? Correct?
I am doing it alone. You don't have to. I don't know if you've ever been to Pantheacon in the Bay Area.
No.
It's a huge pagan festival, but there are people in the Bay Area who practice Hellenic religion, and I went to a lovely ritual which was almost exactly that. It was they brought statues of all the Olympic deities, the 12 Olympic deities, and then some underworld deities as well, and they did the Orphic hymns to each one of the deities, and poured a little wine for an audience of like 50 people. So you can certainly build rituals and attend rituals that are group rituals, but it's primarily a private practice. You're really working yourself with yourself. You can do it with your family. You could do it with your coven if you have a coven.
Right.
You could do the little, say the hymn and make an offering. But you definitely can do it by yourself, and that's how I'm doing it now.
Right. Well, I just wondered because it sounds to me it's almost like you should do it in a meditative state.
You're certainly opening yourself to conversation with the deities. So the next step beyond devotional is to invoke the deity and say, what do you have to say to me? And it's a particular operation. It's called conjunction, where the deity comes and really sits on you or manifests itself to you so that you can have a relationship with the deity. You can see with the eyes of the soul and hear with the ears of the soul, they kind of say. Very poetic. So you listen to what the deity has to say to you, and then record it, write it down in your journal. This is important.
Right.
So you have a record of what you've heard.
Yeah, exactly. And you can work on yourself this way. That's the whole point, correct?
That is. Each deity teaches you something different, reflects a different part of your life, reflects a different part of the cosmos. So you definitely learn from every encounter. I have always, and I don't know that I've ever met a person who did a devotional who didn't learn something from it, right?
Right. Well,
I think that's really true.
Yeah, I think that's the work. The work is working on yourself, and this is a conduit to facilitate that. Is how I looked at it. Which is how I pretty much look at everything that's in this, really. And then whatever works for you or touches you in some way is the one you're supposed to do. And like you said, if people are starting out, a deity will speak to them. Something will just attract them to the right one at the right time, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And there's an idea in the system I'm going to explore further in further writings, but there's an idea that of all the 12 deities, there's one who's your specific one. They call it your leader god. And I have quite a few colleagues who are working in Theurgy right now. I said, how do you know your leader god? And they began to tell me about how to, you should go through the devotionals. I'm like, yeah, I know. But how do I tell people? So I think that's it. I think it's just go through the devotionals. And if there's one that calls to you, then do work with that deity. And I have to tell you, I'll tell you a story too, because do be careful as you walk through it, that you know what you are willing to give, what kind of devotion you're willing to give in your life to the deities. So I invoked Hera, and Hera was lovely. I had a wonderful time with her and learned quite a bit. And she said, would you mind being my priestess and doing a few little things? And I said, no, sure, I would love to do that. And then a week later, I got a request from someone, hey, do you officiate at weddings? And then so I went and officiated at a wedding, and then 2 more people asked me. So I suddenly turned into a person who marries people.
Oh, wow.
That's what she meant.
Oh, that's what she was about. How funny.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
That is what it is.
That's so
I think
cool.
it's lovely. I don't mind doing that service at all. It's really a lovely service. But it was really funny. It was like, okay, when you say yes, remember that things will then happen.
Well, that's good. You just have to be careful what you that's the old saying of be careful what you wish for, because you're going to get it.
Be careful what state yes to.
Yes.
It's important that people know that you can't say no. You can say no to deities. You're like, no, not right now, or you can gently decline. Because they're a deity, it doesn't mean that you have to do anything they ask.
Right. Well, let's talk a little bit more about you too, because you officiate at weddings, so we can say that. But are you primarily a teacher, or are you primarily a writer? How are you translating this into your lifeblood?
It's such an interesting and lovely question. I've done so much work in my life as a teacher and an organizer and a priestess, and these are really 2 sort of halves of my life. So I go away and I go on writing retreats, and I'm by myself or by myself with the dog, and I write, and then I come back out into the world and I talk about what I've written and try to bring that out to people through classes, lectures, going to conferences. So I really have, and I think that they're very much 2 halves of a whole. They're two parts of the coin. I think it would be it would not be helpful if I just wrote and I never talked to people and got their feedback and incorporated that, right? I think it's really important, because then it makes the work useful to people. But if I never disconnected, then I wouldn't have anything to contribute. So I think that both halves are really true, really important.
Well, yes, absolutely. And you're very fortunate, because I would love to go and just write a book and then come out and talk about it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's not the way life happens. I still have to, make a living. So I write every day but I just do it first thing in the morning. I write 1,500 words a day, no matter what, even if it's
Good for
the
you.
old Ray Bradbury school of writing. Otherwise, I will just not do it. Oh, okay, I'll start tomorrow.
I do have a day job, so I don't want to give the impression because there are people who do have the ability to write. So I have a day job, and I support my family. What I do though is I go take weekends, like one weekend a month or 2 weekends a month, and my vacations, and I go do writing retreats. And I found that I have to do that as opposed to doing it every day because the thoughts are big. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're really long, and I need to have a couple hours to work them out. So,
right.
But that's a great way. I work practical magic for beginners that way by doing it a little bit every day. So that's really a better way to do it, I think.
Well, I think
that's the way to do it.
It's just a personal, individual thing, because I find that if I don't do it a little every day, I lose momentum, and then it takes me a few days to get back up to speed again, or I just lost the track or the rhythm or something, If I just do it first thing every day, no matter and when my daughter was young, I was a single mother practically her whole life. I wrote from 10 to midnight every night because I had to support her, a day job, and I just couldn't not write, or I would have lost my mind. So from when she went to bed at 10 o'clock at night, I just wrote, even if it was, an hour. At least I got it done, So it's just kind of whatever works.
I have a huge amount of respect for that. That's amazing to be able to raise a child and also write. It's so much to do, and I really admire your ability to do that.
Well, the funny thing is now when I look back, I don't even know how I did that. I just like, wow. I'm like tired now. I'm like, really? I was like, how did that happen? But you just do it. And I didn't realize it, but years and years and years went by and I just kept at it. And so eventually, I've published 3 books with Llewellyn. So it paid off, but it's like it took a long time. But I would really like to do what you do too. I would really like, and I actually may do this, take one weekend a month or something where I don't take any calls from anybody.
Yes.
And just write. And Sunday evening, I'll stop when it's time to do the show, Intuitive Inc., and then I'll but just have one weekend where you don't take any calls or do anything else except write. And do you actually go away and do that?
I do. I did for 10 years. I wrote The Woman Magician like that, by going off, and I'd find little cheap cabins in Washington State where I live. I go just hole up, and now there's a family member who's kind of left a house behind, so I've been using that one. But yeah, I go away, definitely. One reason is that I have two partners, 2 life partners, 3 cats and a dog, and so I never actually get an uninterrupted hour, pretty much. I'm still waiting for one of them to come up and talk to me, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
The cats cats, you can tell a dog or humans go away, but cats are harder.
No, cats don't listen. Cats,
they don't listen.
Well,
no.
I should say that. They're listening. They don't care.
Yeah. That's it.
They're like, okay, you can say that all you want. They're going to stay. Okay, I am going to open up the lines just in case anybody has a question and wants to call in. 949-313-8880. We're on the line with Brandy Williams here, who wrote For the Love of the Gods and in the past has written Practical Magic for Beginners and The Woman Magician. Were they both with Llewellyn as well?
Yes, and then I also have a couple of books with the Mannion Press. There's Ecstatic Ritual Practical Sex Magic, which was my very first book, actually, and a couple of anthologies. There's Women's Voices in Magic, and I was a minor editor on Bringing Race to the Table, which is about talking about race in the magical communities.
Oh, awesome. And what was the first book you ever did?
Ecstatic Ritual, Practical Sex Magic. I've been a sex magician since I was young and cute.
Okay, we've been talking about the wrong thing. We should have been talking about that. That sounds
that's fine.
fascinating.
OTO is about sex magic, so that's
if anybody has
there.
If anybody has a question about that, please call in 949-313-8880. If I were out there listening, I would call in. I got to tell you that. No, now tell everyone then too, because that sounds fascinating. That's the first book you wrote too. But what do you have a website? How can people find you?
Sure, you can go to brandywilliamsauthor.com, brandywilliams.org. They're the same thing. If you hit one, you'll hit the other one. I have a Facebook presence as Brandy Williams Author, and I also have a Patheos pagan blog called Star and Snake. So if you put Brandy Williams in your web browser, certainly if you put Brandy Williams Author, you'll find one of the ways to connect up with me.
Oh, okay, great. And your books and everything else are on your website, and are you doing workshops and things like that as well?
I spent the whole summer doing a set of classes for various conferences, and I will be continuing to do that in the local area. I do appearances wherever I can, whenever I get out of town. So I go to bookstores and I give lectures. I did one in Minneapolis because I was in town for this book. So yeah, I do I do continue to connect with people.
Yeah, that's a lot. It's a lot of work. I know it's the marketing is almost more work than the actual writing.
Yeah, and I did work on this one. I didn't market The Woman Magician so much, and I really regret that. I think I'm going to probably go back and do some marketing, because I think it needs to hit. It still hasn't found as many people as need it, but this book I definitely put some time and effort into marketing, and it's really been lovely. Not just to sell books, because that I have a day job, but to get the book in front of people who can use it, to let it. To make sure that people who might find it useful know about it. That's what's important, and it seems to be more successful. So it's very gratifying that way.
Right. Well, talk about The Woman Magician for a minute. Tell us what that's about.
So as a ceremonial magician, I noted that the idea of a magician is the idea of a man, and all the language talks about the magician being male and being the image of God, or the image of the divine, which is male. And I said, how can I be a woman and also be a magician? So I looked at the foundation of how we look at gender in the Western tradition, and I did a series of drill downs into the different ways that we look at it. And the way I did it was to invoke 7 spirits that would teach me about that thing. So I talked to Lady Tradition and Lady History and Lady Magic, Lady Philosophy, Lady Culture, and Lady Science, right? So I did 7 ways of looking at gender, and at the end of which I said, okay, let's do some ritual and explore that. And so I built a system with a number of other women. We're the Sisters of Seshat. Seshat is a Egyptian Kemetic deity who's a deity of writing. So she authorizes women's speech and women's writing. And so we built a set of initiation rituals, 5 rituals. I'm currently, the Isis Nephthys Temple of Sisters of Seshat is currently going through our, I think, 3rd set of initiations now. And there are other women around the country who are picking it up and doing it. So it's really cool, because it's the initiation rituals, there are 5 of them, and they're designed to be done quickly with minimal equipment. So you basically have a couple of TV trays and some candles, and you can do the rituals.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, that's important. I mean, if you were going to be marketing, you might as well talk about it. It sounds like it could help people too, especially women, of course, because I do, when you say magician, I think of a male.
Yes,
I do.
Yeah, it's really true. And what we think of the woman is as the muse, or the assistant to the male magician who is doing his work and who is doing the accomplishments, right? So how do we put women into it? How do we think ourselves into that place? it's one of it sort of laid the foundation too for looking at for the love of the gods, because it's really clear that in Platonic philosophy it's possible for a woman to do anything that a man can do, because the soul does not have a gender. So the soul can connect to any deity at all. It doesn't. You don't have to be a woman working with goddesses. You can be a woman working with gods. So it gives you that. It gives you that way of making the magic.
Right. So that is the perfect segue from that then into the For the Love of the Gods. It's true. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I'm going to ask one more time if anyone wants to call in, 949-313-8880. Last time you weren't on and people said they wish they had called, and so now they have the opportunity, and that's kind of Murphy's Law. I think it's kind of funny, but you never know if who's listening and who's not. So we just continue. But it's a great, this has been a great interview. I just want to say that because, it goes
I'm so glad, because I'm so enjoying this. It's wonderful. I'm glad we have a chance to talk, and that I've had a chance to meet you and look at your work too. It's an amazing thing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I have to ask now, because you said something very quickly, and it did not elude me. You said you have 2 life partners.
I do.
Is that correct? And
that's
you
correct.
They're
both guys.
You still have time to write. That's
well, we've done life partners for a while. I don't think I could do it if I had, a new relationship. But it's I have a legal husband who we've been married for 30 some odd years, and maybe more than that. No, it passed 35. That's right. And then we have our best friend. The 3 of us live together, and I've been his partner for more than 25 years. So we very much have, a routine, how we relate to each other. It's not like you can ever rest on your laurels. You must always continue to work on every relationship. But it isn't as time consuming as it might be if we were trying to work all that stuff out.
Right. I think the key here is that they're both long-term relationships. So you have history, you go back, so they kind of have history themselves too together. It's not.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. And we have the house we've lived in for 15 years, and we have our routines. So, but it is why I go away to write too. They're wonderful people. They're lovely, and I've done this thing where I try to I try to write at home, and they do their very best not to talk to me. That they're in the course of human relationships. It's like, oh, honey, this just occurred to me. I've got to go do this, right? So,
right.
Yeah.
No,
and of course the cats just don't care.
That's really hard. The only time if someone else is around, the only time I write at home is if they're not awake. It's either really early in the morning or it's late in the evening, because I can't be interrupted. It's like,
right.
And they think it's important, because you say, oh, don't interrupt me unless it's important. And whatever it is, they think it's important.
It's important. That's right. Yeah.
We don't have milk. Okay.
Yeah. And it might even be important, but maybe if you weren't there, it wouldn't be quite so important.
Well, to them, it is important, so it's like, well, that's okay. But once I don't know about you, but I sort of go into a different state almost when I write.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I don't, So same with you? Yeah, because some people don't, but I do. I go into almost another, I'm somebody else, another world,
Mm-hmm.
And I just sort of breathe.
And I love that person that I am when I write.
Mm-hmm. I like that too. I especially love the first draft of anything, because to me that's just like, just spilling your blood all over the, thing. Just let it all out. Just vomit it all out. And to me, there's no me in it yet. I'm not editing it yet,
Right.
I'm just getting it out. And that to me is fun. That's a lot of fun. I could just do that forever. Okay, so speaking of doing that forever, are you working on another book?
Oh, sure. And it's really interesting that you talked about drafting and then rewriting. Mm-hmm. I wrote the first draft of For the Love of the Gods in 6 months, and then it took me another year and a half to make it into something that flowed and worked well and had internal consistency. So it took me a while to do the rewrite. And I really only used about half of the material in the rewrite. So I immediately started working on the next set of ideas for this particular thing, how the soul does the journey of return to the path of the stars. So I started working on that immediately, actually.
Oh, okay. So do you have a name for this new book?
You know, my books always have working titles. The working title for The Love of the Gods was Pagan Theurgy.
Okay.
So I have a working title, which is Pagan Theurgy too. So we'll see what it turns into.
Yeah.
I mean, For the Love of the Gods is really a lovely. I love the title.
I do too. Did you come up with that? Did you?
I did. I came up with all three titles. I offered them to Llewellyn as options, and they took them all. Oh yeah.
Good.
That'll
Well,
work.
you know, they only take it if they like it, because otherwise they come back with, you know, I know that they'll come back with, no, give us 10 more. Or a few more to work with, or they'll come up with something themselves, you know. Angela Wicks is very good at that, the acquisitions editor there. She's, you know, she'll come up with some ideas so they must have loved it. But I love that title, For the Love of the Gods. So yes, I actually like all the titles. As you know, Practical Magic for Beginners says it all, you know. I mean, that's pretty much, and The Woman Magician. I feel like I got that right off the bat, that this is going to be about you talking about how magicians aren't all men, and go from there. And you did. So I like all the titles too. So it's good. I'm glad you're writing. And you know, if you've got a day job and you've got other things, life goes on. It's difficult to fit this in. It's really difficult. People think it's something, you know, because a really good writer makes the writing look easy. That's a really good writer, but it took years to do that, and it takes time to make it sound that smooth, you know?
Yeah, it takes like you'd say, it takes your daily practice. You have to have it. Right.
So really, you know, because I don't know, a lot of people assume that you know, that looks easy. I can do that. I'll go write a book. And I always say, okay. You know, 45,000 words, have at it.
Go for it, yeah.
Go for it. I never will tell them no. I mean, sure, go ahead, try. It's just not as easy as people think it is. And they would never say that about something else that takes practice, like, oh, I think I'll just, you know, take a few weeks and learn how to pull someone's tooth out or something, be a dentist or something.
Play the piano or,
I'm just going to be a famous rock star overnight. Well, okay. It takes, well, there are a few exceptions, but for the most part, everybody put in a lot of work.
That's right.
Yeah.
No matter which way you do it. So, you know, in this country, we don't get paid for writing. We get paid for what we've written. And I think that's a really important thing to hang on to. So if you're going to be a writer, you have to decide if you're going to have a day job or if you're going to try to make the writing pay for you. And I know people who have done both paths. I chose the path that I'm on to have a job and then support my family, and then also write and look forward to my retirement and when I can actually write full time. And that has its trade-offs. And then people who try to make the writing pay, that also has its trade-offs. And one of them is that, you know, it's very difficult to get your writing to pay. And you do tend to scramble, do a lot of promotion and try to write a lot of books so you can get the front list money. So, you know, and it's, there's no one right choice. It's whatever works for you and your family, basically.
Right.
Don't you think?
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. I totally agree. I do have to ask if you don't have to tell us if you don't want to, but what is your day job?
I work for a large tech company as a project manager. So I basically I took my nephew to work one day. I put him in my office and I said, "Now what does Aunt Brandy do?" And he said, "She talks on the phone and writes emails." So that's it. I'm at my desk all day organizing things for people. And then the dog comes up and says, "Get up," which is a great function for a dog. Makes me stand up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So do you take your dog to work? Are you allowed to do that?
Well, I work from home, so I'm working from a home office most of the time, unless I'm traveling. I do some traveling for work, and then I'll be at the client site, wherever that is.
Oh, I see. Well, that works out really well, though, because then you can sort of, get some writing in or somewhere. Oh, we have a call here. Hold on. Let's see who this is. Hello? Hello?
Hey, is this Yvette?
Yes, it is.
Well, hey, I'm just calling in to talk to Brandy. I wanted to ask a question.
Oh, good. Well, we're winding down here, so it was perfect timing. So please ask away.
Okay. Hey, Brandy, how are you?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. I've been very interested in, magic. I think for the past couple months. And I know that magic can't be a negative thing. It has to be a positive thing. And I'm ready in my life to look forward to better things. And, I don't know quite how to get there. I just want to try something different. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I just, feel that that's something I want to do.
And so you want to try to explore the path of magic. Yeah. And I have to say that I did write a book called Practical Magic for Beginners, and it might be something that would be helpful to you because the book talks about different things that you might want to do, like get a new job or find a partner or end a relationship with a partner, move somewhere, or to find a group of friends or to find a spiritual practice. So the book definitely gives you some theory, but definitely has some specific rituals that are very simple that will that can help you find your path. So you might consider checking that out. And then do you have a kind of, and the thing about that book too is that you don't have to be a witch or a magician. It's just the work itself. So you just light a candle and make the wish essentially. So do you have an idea? Have you done anything like that in your life?
Yes. I've brought I've lit a candle and had some of my stones, my crystals. And I think I started taking pictures after I did my prayer session and saw spirits, like the orbs, you'd say. So I know it's there, but of course what I prayed for actually didn't come to be, so I guess it wasn't part of my life. But I'm ready to have some change. In my relationship I want my kids back. So I'm just wanting to do something to help me with that change.
Yeah, and so one of the things that you can do is kind of think about what you might want and then write that. That's a statement, and not be so specific. Like I want a job that as a project manager at $50,000 a year or whatever, but to say I would like a job that gives me these things. I would like a job that lets me work from home part of the time, in which my input is valued. So you make it a little bit general so that you give the magic a chance to have scope to make that happen. And it's a big part of making a change to figure that out, to figure out how to say what it is that you want. That's you're 3/4 of the way there if you do it. And then the lighting of the candle is just putting the period on that wish and saying, okay, this is the wish that I'm sending out into the world. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Great.
Good.
And
I'm going to have to kind of cut it short because we're running out of time here. But
okay.
Did that answer your question? Did Brandy help?
Yes, she did.
Right. I like that she said to keep it general because sometimes the universe is going to provide. It just may not provide it the way you think it's going to provide it. It may have a different way of doing it. So just be mindful of the end result and not exactly how it's supposed to happen, because the exactly how it's supposed to happen is none of your business, I think. Right?
And that's something too. You said you did something and you weren't sure that it worked, but the energy is still out there. So if you do another set, think about what you want and light the candle for that, it will connect up with the energy you've already sent up to push it in the right direction.
So what if you don't want that energy anymore that you sent out?
Oh, well, then don't do it.
Okay.
You can push it somewhere else.
Well,
okay.
Well, thank you for calling in. I appreciate it. Thank you very much for calling in.
You're welcome. Thank you. You guys have a good night.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Brandy.
Bye.
Bye. Brandy, this was a pleasure. A ton of fun. I had a great time. I learned a lot. I thought this was a great interview.
I'm so glad. And thank you for the second chance. I'm so appreciative.
Oh, no worries. Life happens. And I also think there, too, if you're not on, you weren't supposed to be, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And this person may not have called in tonight if you were on that other night. So who knows? It's all meant to be is how I see it. So just one more time, tell people how to find you and your books.
So I'm at brandywilliamsauthor.com or brandywilliams.org, and I'm Brandy Williams Author on Facebook. So you can connect up with me any of those places, and they'll connect you up with the list of my books and how to contact me.
Great. I have a feeling that you and I will talk again. So thank you very much for doing this. I really appreciate it, and you take care and have a really nice evening, and thank you for your time on a Sunday evening away from your dogs, cats, life partners.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm so appreciative.
Thank you. You take care.
All right. Thanks for it.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Okay, everybody. That was a great show. I had a great time. I hope you did too. I just want to give you my website is servethassan.com, servethassan.com. All of my books are on there, including the latest Life in Transitions that won the National Book Award. I think that you can connect to my blog on there as well, which is Memos from My Higher Self. I have been blogging. I made a promise to myself to blog every single day from January 1st till the end of the year, and so far I have. And it's a memo from my higher self every single day for this year. So, and it has changed my consciousness. Believe it, it really has. So the point of it is that hopefully it will change yours as well. So if you need a shift in consciousness, which is how you make anything in the world happen, then you, on an earthly plane, then read it. Just check it out. It's kind of fun. Sometimes they're short. They're not long. So that's on my website as well. I'm also open for private sessions. Everything you need to know is on my website. So please check it out. servethassan.com. It would be helpful if I could spell my own name. Also, if you want to email me, it's Servet, S-E-R-V-E-T, at servethassan.com, and I will get back to you. And as I always say at the end of the show, it's all about you. I mean, it's about being you to the full, because that's what's really beautiful, and that's what this show is about. It's always about getting people to find that place inside of them where they know they're perfect exactly the way they are. They can do anything they want to do. They can be anything they want to be, because it's about being you to the full. So thank you very much. And again, thank you for all of your support. I am really happy to be doing this show because it's all about helping you. So if that's the case, then it's a success in my eyes. Thank you very much, and tune in again next Sunday for Intuitive Inc. Thank you. Good night.